I'm sorry. Good morning. My name is Sarah Fosselt. I serve as the board administrator for the Texas State Board of Social Worker Examiners. I'll call the roll. Chair Brumley.
Present.
Ms. Andrade.
Present.
Excellent. Ms. Dela Peñas.
Present.
Mr. Dollinger.
Present.
Ms. Pryor.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers. I don't see Ms. Rogers. Ms. Saenz-Davila.
Present.
Ms. Swartz.
Present.
Thank you. And Ms. Tatum.
Present.
Excellent. So we have a quorum. I'll turn it over to Chair Brumley.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming today. Those out there on Zoom and those here in Austin with us. We're going to take the agenda item a little bit out of order. We've got someone who needs to speak and needs to be someplace else at the same time. So with everybody's approval, we're going to skip to item number 16, which is update on quadrennial review, rule review plan and anticipated timeline for completion of the review, and discussion of method for providing guidance and feedback to staff during the rule review process. So Robert, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And hello, everyone from Boston. Sorry, I'm playing two roles at once, and so I appreciate taking this out of order, but hopefully the information I share will be not only informative to the board, but also to all of those of you joining us from the public and licensees. So every 4 years, agencies are required to go through their rules and ensure that they are sort of updated and still necessary. Most of the focus is on having us as staff go through and review and make sure they are legally valid rules, that there is statutory authority for the underlying rules. But while some agencies, that's sort of the only question they ask and they just stop there, we want to take the opportunity, since we're doing all of this work, to really take a good hard look at our rules substantively and get you as board members involved in looking at, you know, has life changed? Has the practice of social work changed? Obviously, in the past 4 years, with the pandemic and virtual practice, we figure, you know, life has changed a little bit. And so that may mean that some of our rules need to be updated to just reflect modern practice. In your board packets, there was a one-page sort of outline of the rule review process. I can say we have already begun and started that first part. Over the last 2 months, staff has gone through all of the rules for all of the boards and identified what we think are sort of categories of rules that either need repealing or updating. And fairly shortly, in May, we will be meeting with the Rules Committee to do sort of a test case presentation where we walk through our findings with the Rules Committee and get their perspective on things that might need to be added or tweaked to that list. We will then be bringing you our initial recommendations, sort of our initial rule review findings, at a June 24th special called meeting, which I very much appreciate y'all being willing to add a meeting for this purpose. I want to highlight that meeting for y'all, for the public, the only thing we will be discussing and talking about then is what rules do we think need to be on the list to repeal or on the list to update. We will not be taking any action at that time. We don't want this to be a surprise to anyone, nor do we want to feel like we're rushing through anything. And so the first analysis we are doing is just to identify our priorities for what needs to be looked at and updated. And so that's what that June 24th meeting will be. We will then add extra effort by hosting a town hall meeting for each of the 4 boards, so that each set of licensees can come and share their perspective about what should be prioritized, what things need to be updated, what topics they want you as the board to consider. We will announce that town hall formally on the calendar at that June 24th meeting. At the risk of being too transparent, we have tentatively picked August 2nd. So go ahead and, jot that down on your calendars, but I'm not saying it's a firm date. But we'll do that town hall. And then all of this work will culminate at the meeting in the fall, which I don't have the date in the back of my mind now, but sometime September, October. We will bring you what we would consider sort of the results of the rule review. Now, there again, we won't take any action on rules at that moment. What we will then be doing is, from the rule review, we will have a list for you of things to propose repealing and a list of rules to start considering for updates. And so all of those updates will take the next several months or year to go through the normal process of having the rule review committee, the rule committee, consider updates, getting public input, having you vote on each rule change just like you do now. And so it is a bit of a long drawn out process where we will finish the official rule review by the end of this year, but we expect the updates, the actual substantive work on the rules, to be very deliberate and thought out and last much longer into the future. So hopefully that's I hope I didn't overload you with dates and information. But hopefully you can tell it's a very thought out process that we're trying to use. But I am happy to answer any questions y'all might have now or of course in the future.
So this is Brian Brumley, Robert. I was just wanting to know, you said there's a rules meeting in May. Is that with just social work, or is that the BHEC rules committee? Which rules committee?
It's the social work.
It is the social
Just-
worker. Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
sure, each of the individual boards will be having their own rule committee.
Okay. So this is not being done overall right now. It's independent boards meeting about their independent rules.
Exactly. It'll be each
Okay.
board's independent rules, and that we will then take up to the council for overall approval. And we'll have the council look at their BHEC rules.
Okay.
Specifically. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else having questions?
I could add the September 13th is the tentatively scheduled social work board meeting. So keep your eye, if you want to mark your calendars for that date.
Excellent. Thanks, Sarah.
Sorry, can
All
you
right.
repeat the date?
Say that again. We didn't hear whoever asked that question.
It's Dolores Saenz-Davila. Could you repeat the date, Sarah? I'm sorry, I missed it.
September 13th, 9/13/24.
So we will have, in regard to the rule review process, the Social Work Rules Committee will meet on May 31st. There'll be a special social work board meeting on June 24th. The council will meet on June 25th. We're tentatively scheduled a town hall Zoom meeting for stakeholders regarding social work rules on August 2nd. And then the social work board will meet again at its regular meeting on September 13th. All subject to change, but we're pretty sure those are going to be the dates. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
All right. If there are no more questions, thank you, Robert. Go fix the world of psychology.
Thank you all.
All right. So back to our agenda. We will now move back to the beginning of the agenda to item number 2. We're going to try something different this meeting. We are going to move public comment to the front end of the meeting to allow individuals who want to make public comment about things we're going to discuss. So that way we will have heard from you prior to discussing anything that's on the agenda today. So I will now open the floor to public comment, and Sarah will take the raised hand feature on Zoom. We have nobody here in the room with us in the public.
So yes, if you're attending by computer, please use the raised hand feature. Those individuals who raise their hand will then be allowed to unmute and give public comment. Once all of the individuals with raised hands have been given an opportunity to speak, I will ask those who are attending by phone if they would like to make public comment. If you are attending by phone, use *6 to unmute. Please note that public comment is not intended for a discussion or a question and answer session with the board. Additionally, when making public comment, please identify yourself and whether you are speaking individually or on behalf of an organization. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise directed by the presiding officer. So I see one person with a raised hand. Mr. Francis, you have public comment.
Yes, my name is Will Francis. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas and Louisiana chapters of the National Association of Social Workers. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. First off, I really appreciated Robert's update on the rules piece, and that sounds exciting and very happy to be able to watch that and be part of it. My only recommendation there would be that the Rules Committee that meets on May 31st, that could be a public meeting that folks could watch. I understand they may not be able to give comment during that, but it would be wonderful from a transparency standpoint to have people actually be able to watch that on Zoom and just see where the discussion is starting. My main comment is on item number 11, regarding the cap on 6 persons in a group, Rule 781.102 and 404. I talked with a whole bunch of social work supervisors, LCSW-Ss, others interested, and the overall feeling is that 6 really makes sense as a number in the rules. The reasoning for that is that there are concerns it will dilute the effectiveness of supervision. The number 6 aligns with how many are in process groups. Most groups out there in that space are similar sizes, and as larger you get, the easier it becomes to sort of hide within that group. Supervisors mentioned they can always start another group once they go over 6. You can have multiple groups going at the same time, but the 6 really allows for control of that group. There was also a remark that, social work is somewhat unique when it comes to groups. LPCs and LMFTs, and I believe psychologists, they require some individual supervision along with group supervision. Social workers are allowed to get all of their supervision hours in a group space. And that, I think, creates a sort of a unique space where ensuring that caps are there really then allows folks to ensure they're getting that unique support they need. They're able to share, they're able to get the feedback that they need. So overall, there was widespread recommendation that the number remain where it is, and that this then allows folks to get that good group supervision they need, and that if folks do need to have more than one group, they can do that. And then just my last comment is just, I hope as you guys discuss the Advanced Generalist Exam to ASWB, just share a little bit more about what that is. Overall, we would love discussions on moving away from the exam that allow us to consider alternative pathways to bring back what the AMAC is and other pieces. So I'm just very curious, and I look forward to that discussion on that agenda item. And thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. I see no other raised hands. I do see a caller. Caller, do you have public comment? You can use *6 to unmute. Okay, I presume they have no public comment. So I see no other raised hands. So I believe that concludes public comment.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Will, for that input and for the information provided there. So we'll move on to agenda item 3, discussion and possible action to re-elect or replace Vice Chair Dolores Saenz-Davila. I hope I say that right. Per Texas Administrative Code 781-207 elections. So Dolores has served the past year, and we do this once a year, don't we?
According to the rule, it's at the first meeting after the last day of January. So
this is
couldn't do it at the January meeting. We had to wait until this one.
okay. So we'll follow these weird date rules and move forward. So Dolores has served though for the previous year as vice chair. Dolores, do you want to speak on that? Are you open to be in that role again?
I'm open, yes.
Okay. So with that in mind, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we re-nominate Ms. Saenz-Davila.
Okay, you have a motion from Ryan Dollinger, and I need a second.
This is Karina de la Peña, and I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the reappointment to Vice Chair of the Texas State Board of Social Work and Examiners of Dolores Saenz-Davila, please signify by saying yes or raising your hand. So motion carries. Everybody voted. All right. Thank you. And
Thank you.
there you go, Dolores.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item number 4, board review and possible action regarding appeals of applications or licensure denials.
This is Sarah. To my knowledge, we have none.
Thank you, Sarah. So item 5, board review and possible action regarding agreed orders to be executed by the board.
And this is Sarah again. To my knowledge, we have none.
Item 6, board review and possible action regarding contested cases from the State Office of Administrative Hearings, or SOAH. So Patrick, is that you?
I don't think we have any. It's a standing agenda.
Right. Yeah. 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 Good deal. Good deal. Just double check with Kenneth out there. Kenneth, I seen you. We don't have anything moving forward right now.
Not at this time. That's directly pending.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 7. Reports of agreed orders executed by the council's executive director.
So that was in your packet.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
And so those out there listening, this is once there has been a sanction on a licensee, there's a process that it goes through. The final document is signed by the executive director, Daryl Spinks, which that sort of solidifies it and makes it real, I guess. So number 8, report of cases dismissed by the council's executive director.
And that report was included in your packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
No questions. Okay. Status report of quarterly enforcement case activities.
That also was included in your packet. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
And if you look through your packet, you can see that the staff, the investigation team, the attorneys, everybody is working diligently to bring that outstanding number of complaints down. Since moving into the BHEC world, I don't know what it was when we came here, but it's significantly lower. Do you know, Patrick?
So I remember the numbers for all of the 4 boards. I think we had something like 17 or 1,800 cases when we first started. So, I mean, it's obviously come way down from that. So what we started doing with these reports is breaking them out by board so you can see the social work board as what part of that total number that's in it. So you can see, I think, the total. And again, this is as of February 29th was 125.
Yeah.
I know that at one point there was in the 300 or 400s, if I remember.
Oh, I do remember. It was up in the 400s, close to 5 at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
And
definitely come down, but the age of the complaints also you can see down there is, I know we've moved some of these cases further too, but I think there were 5 from 2020. And I remember when they came over, there were some that were from 2009, I think.
oh, we used to deal with cases that would be 5-6 years old, So good job to those that are working on that. I think it's only fair that if a complaint is made that it gets dealt with as soon as possible to alleviate the stress that it causes all those involved. Number 9, status report. Oh, we just did that.
Yep.
Number 10, report from committee chairs, report from ethics, which is me. We have not had any meetings of the ethics committee. So B, report from licensing standards and qualifications committee. That would be Ms. Saenz-Davila.
Yes, we met and we discussed the role for group supervision in terms of the question that was raised. And I know that's also something they spoke about earlier, and I believe it's later on the agenda, correct?
It is,
So-
yes. Yeah.
Okay. And we also reviewed a different case. I'm not sure if I can go into those details.
For particular applications, those details are confidential, but you can
Yes.
report that you did review a licensing appeal.
Yes, so that's exactly what happened. We did review, and we had an additional separate meeting to gather additional information.
Okay. Thank y'all for that.
Thank you.
Next is a report from Professional Development Committee, and I also chair that, and we have not met. We have not had a need to meet. So we will move on then to D, report from the Rules Committee Chair, Mr. Dollinger.
Well, you heard a lot already from rules, but we haven't met, but we are meeting on May 31st.
Okay. Is that, Patrick, are Rules Committee meetings something that would be open to the public?
So because they're not a quorum of board members, we typically don't, so that we can bring a better product to then be discussed and developed at a board meeting, which is open to the public. When we open them to, if we have an open meeting, it's because there is a quorum of board members, we're discussing board business. And also, if it's an open meeting, we have to follow the Meetings Act, meaning, it has to be public comment, allow for public comment and posting it so many days.
Okay.
Follow the agenda, the posted agenda, and those sort. So, I think what Robert was talking about is, we're trying to go through multiple steps to give multiple opportunities for public comment, meaning it will be at a public board meeting, it will be at a public BHEC meeting, it will be at a town hall.
Right.
Where we'll discuss this. The town hall isn't technically it's open, but it doesn't follow like an open meeting like this. It's a town hall where it's almost like more of a conversation or asking questions and getting feedback from the public. So it's designed to have multiple steps where there can be public participation in it. So that being said, the short answer to it is no, it's not typically, they're not typically open. I suppose we could do it. It's just, we don't normally do it because it's only, one or two, board members.
Yeah.
They're basically saying we want to move forward with this idea or that, or not that idea before we actually come to actually make a decision with the board. That helps answer your question.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. Is that all, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action concerning licensing and standards and qualifications committee recommendations to defer consideration of rules that limit the number of supervisees to 6 in group supervisory sessions in Title 22 of the Texas Administrative Code, 781-102, Section 28, definition 781-404, D9B, recognition as a council-approved supervisor and the supervision process. So you guys met about that, Dolores?
Yes, we did. And I think we all agreed that if we were to change it, it would decrease the quality of supervision.
Okay.
If we were to increase it.
And we heard during public comment that the NASW, Texas NASW, reached out to members and sort of got that same answer, it sounded like, from them. So the reason this is here is just so the public and the licensees know, when we do informal settlement conferences, which is a sanctioning process when somebody's had a complaint filed against them, we recently had a complaint where a supervisor had 8 people in their group, and there was some relaxing of the rules during COVID and when things went with online technology and all that, but the rule did say 6, or the rule does say 6. So the rule was never changed, but in the discussion, we didn't have any feedback, research, knowledge. Nobody knew why the number 6 was chosen. So that's why I sent this to rules, so that people could look at it and maybe get some feedback. I kind of appreciate that when we have a rule, we can say this is why it's a and I wasn't able to do that before. So thank y'all for that. We can take action on this today.
I don't know that we necessarily need to, because we're not changing the
We're
rule.
not changing it, so we can we don't have to do anything to just leave it alone.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That was and again, that was discussed during one of those committee meetings, and then again brought to the board for public discussion. And since there's no change being made, there's really no need for any action.
No action to it. Okay. Is that you're comfortable with that, Dolores? That the committee's report out is that it stays as is?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I think we all agreed.
Okay, well, good deal. We'll just then leave it as is, and there'll be no change on agenda item number 11. Number 12, discussion and possible action regarding the board's January 5th, 2024 instruction to staff to accept ASWB's advanced generalist exam to satisfy the national licensure examination requirement for the LMSW licensed master social worker and recommend for rule change in Title 22 of the Texas Administrative Code, qualifications of licensure. Who's talking about that?
So I've shared with you the proposed changes up on the screen. So as you recall, in January, the board instructed staff to widen the acceptable exams for the master social worker category of licensure. So we can now accept ASWB's master's examination, and we can now accept the ASWB advanced generalist examination. What was happening was that so as you know, in about before 2017, Texas no longer offered the licensed master social worker with the advanced practitioner designation. So, and so we no longer under our jurisdiction authorized that exam, but other states continue to have the advanced practitioner and use the advanced generalist exam. We did research, which is in your packet, comparing the two. And it was deemed in January that the board could so instruct staff, and so that they could help some of the applicants that were kind of caught in this net after the January meeting. But the attorneys advised that we get it into rule to have, a belt and suspenders type of approach.
Okay.
So that's what this rule change, that's how this rule change came about.
Okay. So this is one that is a change. So we will need to vote to accept this change, and then it has to go in the register and all
It
those
goes
things.
through the entire rulemaking process.
Yeah. But based on what I'm understanding is that we will be able to do that. If somebody did it today, we can look back and accept it.
If somebody did.
If somebody took that advanced generalist exam, if they came before us today, would
So
we be able to accept it?
currently, and even after this rule change, I'm not sure how it would work if a Texas graduate or someone else wanted to use Texas jurisdiction to register for the advanced generalist
That
exam.
AP exam, yeah.
But if they'd already, what were the people that were caught in the net are those that are coming from another state.
Okay.
So I'll have to confer with ASWB and with the attorneys because we don't offer the advanced practitioner license. It would be kind of a sticky wicket to allow someone to take the advanced generalist exam under our jurisdiction.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
Explain what I'm saying by our jurisdiction. When an applicant registers with ASWB to take a particular exam, they select what state's authority they're taking that exam under. Most states require board approval before a person can sit for the exam. We've contracted with ASWB to do the pre-exam approval process for us. So most people, hopefully, if they're taking an exam to be reported to Texas, that they're going to ASWB first, and we often don't know who they are until they've passed the exam.
Gotcha.
With other states, you get board approval first. When someone is applying with ASWB so that their exam score is reported to Texas staff, they register under Texas jurisdiction.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by the jurisdiction.
The jurisdiction. Okay.
So I'll need to do some more conversations with ASWB staff and with our attorneys to see if someone does want to take under Texas jurisdiction, the advanced generalist.
But the rule,
Does that work? And I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm still working on that.
that's okay. But so we adopt this today. We're just going to go through the process just like any other rule change.
Yes,
Okay.
it will go to the council on June 25th. Sometime, if they approve it, sometime after June 25th, it would be published in the Texas Register for at least a 30-day public comment. and then come back to this board no earlier than September 13th. Then if this board approves the rule change and recommends the adoption to the council, it goes to the council. I believe they meet again in October.
Okay. So basically by the end of the year, we should have this fully in place. If all steps follow. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I would entertain a motion on agenda item number 12.
Can I?
Oh, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a
discussion.
comment. I was under the impression that we were only making this change to accommodate those who were asking for licensure in Texas, not to make an additional exam for Texas individuals.
It's not an additional,
Okay.
it's an either or, and it's primarily because I think there was an applicant previously that had that, like, what you were talking about, that somebody was licensed in another jurisdiction, but they never took the master's examination. They only took the advanced generalist.
Mhm.
And so we were
From a
looking
different
to-
state, right?
Yeah, from another state.
From
Right.
another state.
Yeah. And so this was because we approved that person, we thought it best to actually have a rule that says that they can rely on and gives notice to the public when they apply.
Mhm.
This will accept this for the LMSW.
Okay. I'm worried. I'm wary of changing the rule, and the reason is because I think it should be a waiver. Like, could we provide a waiver to the people who are coming from another state, rather than changing our rule?
So I'm going to back up a little bit.
Okay.
When the Behavioral Health Council was created by the legislature, the focus was to streamline processes. And the more that we have in rule, as this is the process, the more that staff can then say, I have that in rule, I can move on, I can go. If it's a waiver type of thing, then staff has to set it aside. We have to call a committee meeting. We have to do, we have to hold the meeting, and then we might have to then take it to the board and or to the council to settle that appeal.
Mhm.
There are processes in place to do that, as we've done with other applicants that have this. But if we're again, as staff, we're again focused on how can we make this the most fair and the most streamlined for all of our applicants. It may be that you're looking for, and I don't want to put words in your
No,
mouth,
you're good.
but it may be that you're looking for a modification that staff may also accept. The advanced generalist rather than,
From outside states.
yeah, or something to that
Outside
effect, to carve out,
jurisdictions.
that we aren't approving,
a
or
change for
ASWB
Texas.
isn't approving for that exam on our behalf. To make it more clear in the rule. Is that what I'm?
Yeah, I agree with that, of making a modification that we make the exception for out of state people, but I don't know if I would be okay with changing the rule for this whole state.
Any other discussion on that? Anybody on Zoom have any input? All right. So
Oh,
Ryan, is that?
Unmute.
Oh,
I was just saying, no, I was a little unclear at the beginning of the meeting as to what they were referring to. But now I understand.
yeah. For years in Texas, you could be an LMSW, an LMSW AP, which
I remember that,
this
yeah.
exam dealt with, or an LCSW, or they used to be LMSW, some other letters that were.
LMSW AP,
No,
advanced
but
practitioner.
what did LCSWs before we just made them they were LMSW dash.
That's way.
Yeah,
before
that's
my
way,
time,
way,
so-
way back in the olden days.
For what-
So, but we changed that, and now everybody's LCSW, and there are still some LMSW dash APs out there
Mhm.
in Texas that got it before we changed it in 2017. So, so that's kind of the history of it, and it was a two-step process. They had to become an LMSW, do certain things, supervision and stuff, take the AP exam, but we did away with that. So other states still have it. So I guess what we're saying, Ryan, was that in the form of a motion or discussion?
That was discussion.
Okay. Would
I
you
just-
you like to word that in the form of a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we amend this proposal to have a carve out for external states to accept their AP exam, but not to change.
If they're previously licensed in another
If they're
state,
previously licensed in another
that's what
state.
they passed, they could
Correct.
qualify for it. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
And it would require that they went through the whole process and got an out-of-state license, or only that they passed this exam in another jurisdiction, just in case life happened and they didn't get
Right.
through.
Is
So
this reciprocity we're talking about?
No.
more portability than reciprocity.
Portability. Okay.
I think the two options is we could potentially send this back to the rules committee to fine tune the language and come back with something that addresses that, or we could try to do it right now. My concern is that I think we could just, I get exactly what you're saying. And so I think we could probably try to put something together. I just want to make sure it's exactly what you guys want. So I
Okay.
don't know if you want to try to do that now, or you want to just send it back to rules and then bring it back forward at a
Well,
later.
rules is going to meet on May 31st. Is that right?
Yeah, my preference would be allow the attorneys and the rules committee to get clear direction in a committee meeting. And clarify that and then bring it back to the board.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did I overspeak someone, a board member trying to comment? Okay. So is that
Yeah.
where your motion was going?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll go there.
Okay.
Did we get a second?
So I need it. So Ryan's motion is to send agenda item number 12 back to the rules committee for cleanup, clarification, review. I need a second to that, please.
I'll second it.
Who was that? Leanne?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand. All right. So agenda item was at 12 will now be referred back to rules for discussion and cleanup. All right. Agenda item 13, discussion and possible action regarding jurisprudence exam.
So you have a report in your board packet. And I've given for you, to me, the things that I go through are the comments that people made. Some noted that they thought one or more questions was incorrect on the exam. I double checked that and gave you in your report both the question and the rule that it was pulled from. Also, there were multiple commenters who expressed that there is too much repetitive or redundancy pulled from, and perhaps they're talking about the number of questions that are pulled from Chapter 507, which we did overload it a bit when we were launching the Behavioral Health Executive Council, just to make sure that we got as much familiarity out there with licensees and with applicants that they're looking for the council, not just the board. So that if they got something in the mail from the council, they didn't just toss it and that kind of thing. The MFT board recently removed many, I think all but 2 of those Chapter 507 questions, because they felt now the familiarity is there within the community of social workers and potential applicants. So I ask if you want to make any changes to Chapter 507 questions. And if you'd like to refer this to the Professional Development Committee for further discussion, then that's an option for you as well. Similarly, one of the commenters opined that the supervisor questions, the questions related to, it appears mostly clinical supervision processes, that they were out of date. I went through all of the rules and all of the questions. I did not find anything that was out of alignment. But again, if you'd like to refer that to the Professional Development Committee, or you can opt to not make any changes based on those comments. I just brought those options forward to you.
So what things in 507 was primarily upsetting folks, or folks were questioning?
For example, I counted in multiple exams, there were more than 20 questions pulled from Chapter 507, or from chapters 881 to 884 that dealt with the processes of, for example, fingerprinting, or the processes of renewal, or some of those things that changed when we went to the council.
Okay.
And our hope was that for example, if if you didn't know about the requirement to get your fingerprint when you renewed, because you didn't get your fingerprint when we were with HHSC, that could cause you to have a delinquent license, and then you'd have even bigger problems. And we were trying to avoid that by including it in multiple places,
Okay.
multiple ways.
Would it be a possibility for someone, staff attorneys, I don't know who would review it, and the ones in question, could they send those to the rules committee? I mean,
Yes,
I'm sorry, the professional development committee,
certainly.
and you know, the ones that are in question, we get those, look at them and see about, you know, are they currently valid? But for everyone we take out, we have to replace with something else.
Not necessarily. You haven't, what the way the exam works is you have almost 300 questions that are in a general pool.
Okay.
And for any given exam,
They just randomized.
123 are randomly pulled from
Okay.
that. So you can lose some without losing the randomization process.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily that you need to. The other thing to consider too is that we're about to embark, or in the next year, we'll be embarking on some perhaps significant rule changes.
Uh-huh.
And you might want to wait until that's completed to do this process.
Or we just
It's
have
up
to do
you.
it again and again, wouldn't we? Yeah.
What we've been doing is, as a rule changes, is, and I should report that, that this past quarter, as chair of the Professional Development Committee, Chair Brumley approved changes to the exam regarding rules that became effective on January 27th. And the vendor reports those changes were done, and that exam was launched on January 27th.
Okay.
So, that's how we've been doing it, to keep the exam current and in alignment.
Well, let's, my suggestion would be, let's just move forward with it as it is now. And as rules change, we just keep it updated.
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
I think,
Okay.
sorry, the only
Yes,
thing
Dolores.
that I've seen was one of the comments regarding social workers keeping a record for a minimum of 7 years, that the answer should have been A and C, but it wasn't an option.
So in that,
On page 5,
if I may bring that up. Sorry, my computer's a little slow. Pardon me, my computer is still trying to open the document. 1 second.
I remember you sent that to us, Sarah, but I don't remember when.
Maybe I should try to go into the.
I have it up if you'd like for me to share my screen. I don't know if that's an option.
Sure. Because I'm not getting anything.
Okay. Let me just.
It's just checking.
Can you share your screen, Dolores?
Yes, I'm trying to see if I can. I'm gonna have to move you guys over to the right, so because I have 2 screens. Okay. Can you see it? Oh, that's the agenda
Yes.
screen. Here we go. I don't know what size it's on right now. Is that
Oh, that's a lot better.
That's good, yeah.
okay?
So the way the rule reads, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't quite read it, but the way
I
the,
can read it if you'd
Okay.
like. It's right
so
here.
if you would read the rule.
Yes. I think it's up here. Sorry, no, it's really big. The question regarding the length of time to keep records is incorrect. The law states 7 years for an adult or 5 years once a client turns 18. the correct answer on the test should have been A and C, but it wasn't an option. And then social workers shall keep records for a minimum of A, 7 years, B, 5 years for an adult, C, 5 years beyond the age of 18 years of age for a minor, D, B, and C. And so they were saying A and C are the correct answers.
So I believe the rule says for a minimum of 7 years.
Yes, I think unless they're a minor and we have to keep it a certain number of years beyond the age of 18.
So if they're a minor,
Yes.
so I'm going to ask Attorney Patrick, if they're a minor who is 16 years old, I'm sorry, who's 17 years old, and they have to keep it for 5 years after the age of 18, is that 6 years? Or is that a minimum of 7 years?
There's the whichever is greater. So it would be the 7 years is actually greater there, right? They promised there'd be no math, but I think that was only 6 years.
Yeah.
Right.
For that, so it would then fall under the 7 years. Now, if the
client was 10,
and yeah, then it would be, and they stopped services, they would have to keep it for 8 plus 5.
yeah.
And that would be the greater, so it would have to fall under that one.
So even for the minor client who is 16 years old or 17 years old, if you're reading that part of the rule, it looks like 6 years, but you have to remember that it's a minimum of 7, whichever is greater. So it's at least, so the question is, and it's correct, at least 7 years. A is still the correct answer.
Okay.
But it seems
So
tricky.
Yeah, it's a tricky question.
But I think the trickiness is in the rule rather than in the question. And
I have the rule pulled up if you want me to.
go ahead.
So it says a social worker shall keep accurate records of services to include but not limited to dates of services, types of services, progress and case notes, and billing information for a minimum of 7 years after the date of termination of services for an adult client, or 5 years beyond the age of 18 years of age for a minor, whichever is greater.
So that whichever is greater is the key.
Yes, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So is there a proposal or a desire to change the question to better?
I think it would depend on the I guess the people that, or what's the percentage of getting it right versus wrong. If it's the wording that could be.
Well, in the jurisprudence exam, everybody eventually gets it right.
Right.
So-
Well, okay.
It's
Yeah.
a no-fail exam.
Yeah,
You can keep
if
trying
you-
over and over.
Confusion because they think the question's wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Then
Yeah.
have we
Have we done any good?
succeeded but thwarted our intent?
Mhm.
I can.
I mean, if it hasn't been an issue, then it hasn't been an issue, but I can see the confusion, especially if you work a lot with children.
If I remember correctly, I believe that we had a similar comment in the previous quarter. So that's at least 2 people, 2 quarters in a row. I don't know how many JP exams were taken in each quarter. So I don't know how frequent that is. What I'd like to do is propose drafting a different question and providing that to the Professional Development Committee for consideration. And then we'll bring that back to the board.
Okay.
I was just going to say maybe an option could be whichever is greater. The answer could be whichever is greater.
Yeah. All right. Any more discussion or input on the jurisprudence exam? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to agenda item 14, report from the board chair concerning current challenges, accomplishments, lawsuits, interaction with stakeholders, state officials, staff, committee appointments and functions, workload of the board members, conferences, and general information regarding the routine functioning of the board. So we're about to finish up April. Next week, there will be the Association of Social Work Boards is holding their REAL conference, which is Regulatory Education and Leadership. Then we will have the meeting with Robert on then May 31st, rules is going to meet. Then in June, late June, we'll have the rules. I don't know what we're going to call that, a conference gathering, whatever, special call meeting about rules on June 24th. And the following day will be BHEC's regular schedule meeting on June 25th. And then we will meet as this board again on September 13th. After that, I know NASW conference is coming up in November this year. It's later. It's a little bit later than normal. So, and it's going to be up in Irving.
Irving,
Is that
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's going to be up in the north part of Texas this year. So all those things are upcoming. The board is doing diligent work. The committees keeping up with changes that are going on. The attorneys are making sure that the sanctions and issues that come about are dealt with. We have informal settlement conferences, I don't know, every other month or so. I don't know how often they come around, but we've been managing those throughout the year to make sure that the due process is dealt with in each and every case that deserves it. Other than that, I think we're moving forward, and we're pretty close to up to date. I don't know. You can go on the webpage and see. I know some of the questions I get all the time is, oh, I passed my test and I don't have my license yet. Well, that was 3 days ago. It takes a little longer than that sometimes, but you can go online and there is a chart that I think Tim updates that chart. Sarah, Tim Spear. He has a chart that you can look at and it will tell you what date applications they are working on. So, you know, like if you pulled it up and looked at it, is that what you're doing, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see there shortly that we're currently on.
So I'm clicking in the right-hand column on the quick link, applying for a license and timelines. And then if you scroll down a bit, this will show you where staff is.
Yeah. So that says social work is on 4. What is that? 4/8? I can't see that far.
4/8.
4/8. Okay. 4/8/24. So today is what, 4/26, and they're working on applications from about 2.5 weeks ago. So that's fairly timely. I would think when you're working for the government, things are happening fairly quickly. I mean, there was a point in time when it was taking months to get that done. So these guys are paying attention. Anybody out there, I know we're moving into the point of the year when universities have their graduations, and there's always an influx of applications right after that. So, you know, it may back up a little bit, but I don't foresee us getting back to that more than a month point. So most everybody, I think it says, you know, give us 6 weeks before you start stomping your foot. But just pay attention to that date and check your junk mail folder, check your spam folders, because sometimes staff sends you information, and if your computer's set up in some certain way, it may send it and you don't see it. So just stay in contact best you can. So that's all I have there on 14. So we'll move to the board delegates. Agenda item 15, report from the board's delegates to the Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council regarding the activities of the Executive Council, including rulemaking actions taken at its February 20th, 2024 meeting, with adopted rules, withdrawn rules, and other council updates. And those are in the
Those are in
packet.
the packet.
Yeah. So any questions about anything that happened at the big board meeting, the BHEC meeting back in February? All right. There were, social work did have some rule changes that were approved in that meeting, and they've already been through the system and they're working their way into it.
They were adopted on, adopted effective March 27th.
Okay.
Those were the adopted rules that were approved by the council on February 20th. They were effective March 27th. I'll show you in a minute on the consolidated rule book has been updated as well.
Right. And when we get to that and Sarah shows you that is a good, that is a starting place for everybody when you have a question. So I will, we have already dealt with agenda item 16, so we'll move on to 17. So Sarah?
So I wanted to. There it is. So I wanted to share with you in the summary that I put together for the February 20th council meeting, I neglected to include a proposed rule from 880, chapter 882. But you can see it on our homepage or on our landing page. If you go again to the quick links on the right-hand column, proposed rule changes and the rulemaking process. And it tells you about the process, but if you already know about that, skip down to the proposed rule changes open for public comment. And we have links there that you can view the proposed rule. You could submit public comment for that particular rule. This was published on April 12th, and the deadline for submitting public comment is 5 p.m. on May 12th, 2024. There were no social work rule specific proposed rules that were approved on February 20th. There were some marriage and family therapy rules. And then down further on the page are the recently adopted rules, just for your quick reference. So again, chapters 881 through 885 apply to all licensees that are issued by the council, including the social work licenses. So this 882.2, take a look at the rule and make public comment on that rule as you deem appropriate. I also included in the packet as sort of a preview the performance measures for the second quarter. They will be presented to the council at its June 25th meeting. So if you have questions about that, join that council meeting, and I'm sure Director Spinks and others will be able to address your questions for that. On March 15th, the council and staff held a lunch event webinar. We had 875 persons registered, 368 attended. That's about 42%. We answered 70 questions. We had a Q&A kind of thing going on with the attendees. And Director Spinks set it up with a post-event survey. 131 attendees received the survey, and per the responses, the vast majority enjoyed that format. With some like for an hour, we took half that time to give them information, like the new rules that became adopted or were becoming effective. And then we saved half the time for a question and answer session. So people could, like we do our public comment here, they could talk to us and ask a question, and we could give them some assistance. In the future, the council is considering trying to do such an event after each council meeting, just to have more public facing and interface. And some survey participants indicated that they would like more Q&A time, and there's a consideration that we might do an event that's entirely Q&A, that we wouldn't present anything, or maybe we'd just hold it to a sentence or two. As Chair Brumley mentioned, before you, if you're expecting a reply from council staff, please check your spam and your junk folders. Sometimes a recipient's email platform is geared to route certain things to those folders. And because of our government address, sometimes ours gets swiped into those folders that we didn't intend, but that's how it was set up on your end. Before you call an email, I'd like to bring to your attention that each of the 4 boards, and I'm scrolling back up to our masthead, each of the 4 boards, there's a link under that board name to a specified number of web pages. So if you click on the social work link on the masthead, you'll get the social work landing page. And in that quick link column on the right, it's changed. You may not have noticed it, but it's specific to FAQs, frequently asked questions about social work in particular. And then I also like to draw, so before you call, that might be a place you can check if it's after hours, and you might be able to find your answer in that frequently asked question. You can see we have quite a number of them. Scrolling back up to the quick links, if you have some transaction you need to do with the boards and with the council's database, I ask you to look at our how-to guides. These are step-by-step instructions with screen captures on how to do the transaction online. For example, if you need to change your name or you need to change your address or some other thing that you might need to do. So please check on that and see if your question isn't answered in those documents there. I showed you the rulemaking page. Oh, yes. And as always, I'd like to thank Brenda Skiff for her updates to the consolidated rule books. I just clicked on the link in the right-hand column for statutes and rules. The consolidated rule books are in a PDF format that's easily searched by keywords. And there's one rule book for each of the professions. And they were updated on April 1st to include the rules that became effective on March 22nd. If you download this PDF for your personal use off your laptop or off of your own files, please be aware that you'll need to download this new one so you're not looking at an old set of rules. And I was asked to let you know about I have to stop the share so I can see what I'm doing. About the compact. The compact bill required at least seven states to enact the bill legislation into law, and that has transpired. There are now 9, I think. There is at least 7. Okay, how do I? McGregor, the Zoom is putting its nav bar right over where I need to get to.
Sarah,
Can you look up there and
right
see?
here.
I can't see where my mouse.
Oh. You're okay.
You're right here. Oh,
Oh. We can see it on Ryan's screen.
How frustrating.
What are you trying to do? What do you get that
Map,
menu?
thank you.
there you go.
I got it, thank you. The nav bar mysteriously moved. I don't know what I did. Operator error. So you can see in the dark blue are the states that have enacted the social work compact legislation. So their legislatures passed it and their governors signed it. After 7, I could go back to if I can find it again. After the 7 states are participating, I'm going back to the Social Work Compact's homepage and scrolling down so I can tell you the licensure compact is reached what they call the activation status. And so multiple state licenses are not yet being issued. It will take 12 to 24 months for what they call the implementation process. So now that more than 7 states have agreed to participate by law, they will begin to form a commission and create bylaws and get together offices and a database and all the things that they need to have to function as a multi-state license agency, if you will. So that's in the process. In the meantime, the states that were in light blue, the ones that I showed you on the map, they have legislation that is pending. Texas does not have legislation that is pending. This board by Texas law cannot lobby with the legislature. A board member does not give up any individual right to participate in a democratic process, such as talking to your senators or your legislators. But individual social workers also have that right. And the associations and professional organizations also have the right to lobby with their representatives in determining what they want to see for Texas in the future. So that's my update on the Social Work Compact. If you want to look at the Social Work Compact site, I just Googled Social Work Compact and it came up with this homepage. So it was pretty easy to find. There's a lot of information on the site that you might want to take a look at. And that concludes my report unless there's any questions from the board members.
And just a little quick Texas history lesson. Texas will not be able to look at moving into the compact until 2025 because our legislators only meet in odd numbered years. So those of you saying, well, why aren't we there yet? Well, we didn't get it in 23. So now we have to wait until, or it did not get in 23. So if it becomes relevant, it will happen in 2025 during that called legislative session.
So, that being said, so the bills are filed. When's the first day that bills can be filed? Like in January? I don't need a specific date, but just the usual process.
Well, I mean, they can, I don't remember the exact schedule we gathered. They can pre-file actually right before, and then usually they're all filed in the early part
Of the
portion
session.
of it, but there's a drop dead date early in the session when they can't file.
Yeah.
it.
So the conversations that happen before a bill is drafted could be happening now, but a legislature wouldn't file a bill or sponsor a bill until just before or just after the session starts. Is that?
And
clear?
actually, bills get filed in November, I think the 11th or something.
Well,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
So as early as this November.
2024, yeah.
Looky there. 7th grade history, Texas history's paying off. So, all right. Any questions, any input, any statements by any of the board members?
I just wanted to remind everybody to do the social work census that you could get free CEUs if you were to do it.
That's it. So what Dolores is talking about, for everybody that's out there listening, the social work census is now active. It is on the ASWB website. You can go to aswb.org and there's a little icon there. You click it. I mean, it's going to take some time to do it, but you get, I think they give you 2 CEs. Is that right, Dolores? Is that what we got?
Yes, I believe it is too.
Yeah, you get 2 CEs for completion of the social work census. And, you know, this is your opportunity to have input into what your world as a social worker looks like, because there's never really been a national gathering or review of what jobs in social work, you know, what social workers do, what they're expected to do, those kind of things. So this is your opportunity. All right. Anybody else? All
I
right.
think someone has their hand raised.
Oh, Will Francis.
Do you wish?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and end. We'll take this one public comment.
Mr. Francis?
Hey, thank you. Well, thank you so much for letting me speak. Will Francis, per my read of the rules, completing a survey would not count. So even though they offer 2 CEUs, I just want to be clear that our rules are very clear about trainings and about what qualifications are for continuing education. And completing a survey does not meet the rules as I have reviewed them. So I just want people in Texas to know that while they will get 2 CEUs, those should not count in Texas. I've never seen completing a survey as actually a training exercise or education, or that there's a survey afterwards, or that they collect attendance, or that anything would meet our continuing education. So I just want to be clear that per my read on the rules, completing a survey is not going to get you 2 CEUs in Texas. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for that, Will. We'll get our folks to read the rules and see about that. Patrick, y'all can make a decision, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
To that.
All right. Thank you for that, Will, in ASW, and we'll make sure that we look into that. All right. Well, with nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I have a motion from Ryan,
Second from Ms. De La Peña.
second from Ms. De La Peña. All in favor, you can raise your hand, turn your Zoom off, go home. Thank you. Bye. Meeting is
Thank you.
adjourned.
Thank you.